The classroom at Nexus Prime Interstellar Academy buzzed with morning energy. Sunlight filtered through massive windows that looked out over a landscape both familiar and strange. Floating gardens hummed between gleaming towers, their green leaves swaying against a sky of soft purple and silver. Inside the xenobiology classroom, students from a dozen different planets settled into their seats. Sung-ho adjusted his translation device, his fingers moving quickly over the small metallic disc attached to his collar. He was the class representative, a responsibility that came with both pride and endless paperwork. Today was different. A new exchange student was joining their class, and exchange students were always interesting. The classroom itself was a marvel of interstellar design. Chairs shifted and changed shape to fit the body types of different species. Holographic displays flickered with biological diagrams, showing everything from microscopic cellular structures to massive planetary ecosystems. Some students had skin that changed colors with their emotions. Others had multiple sets of eyes or appendages that moved independently. At the front of the room, Professor Kang was reviewing the day's lesson plan. She was a tall, slender woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her teaching uniform was crisp and dark blue, with small badges indicating her academic achievements. She had been teaching at Nexus Prime for over 2 decades and had seen hundreds of students come and go. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Olivia Park walked in. She looked completely ordinary, which was extraordinary in itself. While other students wore complex environmental suits or had visible biological adaptations, Olivia wore simple earth clothing. A dark blue jacket, black pants, and a simple white shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She carried a standard data pad and a small backpack. Sung-ho watched her carefully. New students always created a stir, but this human seemed different. She wasn't trying to look impressive. She wasn't nervous. She simply walked to an empty seat and sat down, her movements calm and purposeful. Around her, the classroom continued its morning routine. Jae-won, a Vrelian student with skin that looked like polished silver, was adjusting his breathing apparatus. Hai-jin, who came from a telepathic species, was already scanning the room with her enhanced mental abilities. They all noticed the new student, but nobody made a big deal about it. Professor Kang looked up from her datapad. "Welcome," she said simply. "You must be Olivia Park, our new human exchange student." Olivia nodded. "Yes, Professor." No dramatic introduction, no long speech, just a simple confirmation. The other students exchanged glances. Humans were known throughout the galaxy, but actually meeting one was rare. Most were busy managing their complex network of colonies and trading routes. They weren't often seen in educational institutions, especially not in an advanced xenobiology program. Sung-ho made a quick note in his digital log. New student, human, female, name, Olivia Park, seemed calm, unremarkable appearance. Little did he know how wrong that last observation would prove to be. The morning lecture began. Professor Kang started discussing the complex biological systems of various planetary ecosystems. Holographic images of strange creatures and alien landscapes filled the room. Tentacled beings from ocean planets, silicon-based life forms from rocky worlds, floating creatures that existed as pure energy. Olivia listened, her expression neutral. She took notes occasionally, her hand moving smoothly across her datapad. Nothing suggested she was anything more than another student. But something was coming. Something that would make this ordinary morning anything but normal. The class had no idea what was about to happen. The morning lecture dragged on. Most students were only half listening. Holographic displays showed complex biological systems that seemed to drift and dance in the air. Professor Kang's voice was steady and calm as she explained the intricate relationships between different species across the galaxy. Jae-won was bored. His silver skin flickered with soft shades of blue and gray, showing his growing restlessness. As a Vrelian, he was used to more interactive learning. He glanced over at the new human student. She seemed different from what he expected. During the break, J1 decided to talk to Olivia. Most exchange students were eager to share stories about their home planets. Humans were especially interesting because they had spread across so many different worlds. "So," he said, walking over to her seat, "what's life like on Earth?" Olivia looked up. Her eyes were dark and clear. She didn't seem surprised by his question. Many students asked about Earth. It was a famous planet, known for its complex history and quick expansion into space. "It's pretty normal," Olivia said simply. "Depends on where you live." J1 waited. Most students would give long descriptions. They would talk about cities or landscapes or special technologies. But Olivia seemed content with her short answer. Sung-ho, who was nearby, watched the conversation. As class representative, he made it his job to help new students feel welcome. But something about Olivia was different. She didn't seem to need help. She seemed completely comfortable. "Do you have any interesting pets?" J1 asked. It was a standard question among students from different planets. Pets told you a lot about a planet's ecosystem and culture. Olivia paused for a moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile. But J1 saw something in her eyes, something that made him feel strange. "We have a family snake," she said casually. Hai-jin, sitting nearby, turned her head. As a telepath, she was always interested in personal stories, but something about Olivia's words made her feel odd. Most telepaths could read emotions easily, but Olivia's mind felt different. "A snake?" J1 asked. His translator worked perfectly, but he wasn't sure he heard correctly. "Yes," Olivia said. "A family snake." The word hung in the air. Around them, other students started to listen. Not because they were trying to be rude, but because something about the way Olivia spoke was strange. Sung-ho moved closer. He adjusted his translation device, making sure it was working correctly. Sometimes, these devices made mistakes with unusual words or concepts. "Tell me about this snake," J1 said. His curiosity was growing. On his home planet, most dangerous animals were kept far away from living spaces. The idea of a snake as a family member was strange. Olivia looked comfortable. She wasn't showing off. She wasn't trying to be dramatic. She was simply telling a story about her family. "It lives in our backyard," she said. "We've had it for years." The other students exchanged looks. Backyard. Snake. Family. Something was coming. The classroom could feel it. The air seemed to change. Hai-jin's telepathic senses were tingling. Sung-ho felt a strange tension building. J1 leaned forward. "How big is this snake?" he asked. Olivia's smile grew just a little bit wider. "Oh," she said, "it's about 3 meters long." The conversation was just beginning, and nobody in the classroom had any idea what was about to unfold. The classroom felt different after Olivia's casual comment about her 3-meter snake. It was like something invisible had changed. The air felt heavier. Students shifted in their seats. Some looked nervous. Others looked curious. Hai-jin, the telepath from the Lyran colonies, felt something strange. Her special abilities allowed her to read emotions. Usually, she could feel exactly what people were thinking and feeling. But Olivia was different. It was like trying to read a closed book. Most of the students came from planets with strict rules about dangerous animals. On their homeworlds, a 3-meter snake would be considered a serious threat. It would be kept in a special secure facility. It would never be called a family anything. J1 couldn't stop thinking about Olivia's words. His silver skin kept changing colors, showing his mixed feelings. Blue for curiosity, gray for worry, the hint of green for excitement. "So," he said, trying to sound casual, "what does your family do with this snake?" Olivia looked at him. Her face was calm. Too calm. Most students would be excited to talk about something unusual, but she spoke like she was discussing something totally normal. "It helps us with garden work," she said simply. The classroom went quiet for a moment. Professor Kang was listening. She had heard many stories from students across the galaxy, But this was something new. Humans were known for doing unexpected things, but a snake that helped with garden work. This was interesting. Sung Ho made another note in his digital log. Family snake. Helps with garden work. He added a question mark. It didn't make sense. Hai Jin moved closer. As a telepath, she was used to understanding people. But Olivia was a puzzle. Most humans showed clear emotions. Excitement, pride, nervousness. But Olivia showed nothing. The other students started to whisper. Not loud enough for the professor to hear, but enough to share their thoughts. A snake that helps in the garden. 3 meters long. How is that even possible? J1 wanted to know more. Does it do special things? He asked. Olivia nodded. It catches bad animals, keeps the garden clean. On most planets, this would be a job for robots or special machines. Not a living creature, certainly not a snake. The classroom was full of students from different worlds. Some had skin that changed colors. Some could float in the air. Some had extra arms or eyes. They had seen many strange things. But a family snake. This was something new. Professor Kang walked closer. She was good at reading students. She could tell when someone was telling the truth, when someone was making something up. Olivia looked completely normal, like she was talking about something as simple as the weather. Tell me more, Professor Kang said. Olivia looked at her. What would you like to know? The question hung in the air. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't challenging. It was just a simple question. Hai Jin felt something strange. As a telepath, she could usually read emotions easily. But Olivia's mind was like a closed room. No emotions leaked out. No feelings escaped. J1's skin flickered between colors. Blue, gray, green. His curiosity was growing. Sung Ho watched carefully. As class representative, he had seen many exchange students, but none like this. The snake story was just beginning, and nobody knew what would come next. Outside the classroom, the alien world continued. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. Strange machines worked in the distance. But inside this classroom, something interesting was happening. A human, a snake, and a story that was just starting to unfold. The lunch break came quickly. Most students rushed to the food area, but not everyone. Some stayed behind, still thinking about Olivia's strange story. 3 meters long, J1 repeated to himself. His silver skin was now a mix of blue and green, colors that showed deep thinking and growing excitement. Olivia sat alone. She didn't seem to mind. She pulled out a small lunchbox. It looked normal. Simple food. Nothing special. Sung Ho couldn't help himself. He walked over. Can I ask you something? He said. Olivia looked up. Sure, she answered. Tell me more about your snake, Sung Ho said. He tried to sound casual, but his voice showed his curiosity. Olivia took a bite of her food. Then she started talking, like it was the most normal thing in the world. We've had the snake for about 10 years, she said. My dad found it when it was very small. Most people would have been scared, but my family saw something different. The other students nearby started to listen. Not obviously, but they were listening. What do you mean? Sung Ho asked. Olivia shrugged. Some animals are special. This snake was smart. Really smart. On most planets, this would sound crazy. Animals were animals. They had simple jobs, simple lives. But Olivia spoke like this was completely normal. How smart? J1 asked. He had moved closer. His silver skin was now totally green, a color that showed total interest. It understands complex commands, Olivia said. It helps in the garden. It keeps away bad animals. Mice, rats, things that eat our plants. Professor Kang was listening. She had studied animal behavior from hundreds of planets. But this sounded different. A 3-meter snake that understands commands. She said, that sounds unusual. Olivia looked at her. Not for us, she said simply. The classroom felt strange. Humans were known for doing unexpected things. They had spread across many worlds. They made friends with strange creatures. But this was something new. Jin, the telepath, moved closer. She wanted to read Olivia's emotions, but it was like trying to read a blank wall. Nothing came through. "What does the snake eat?" J1 asked. "Mostly bad animals," Olivia said. "Invasive species, things that cause problems in the garden. Most planets would use robots for this job, or special machines. Not a living creature, certainly not a snake." Sunho made another note in his digital log. "Snake. Intelligent. Helps in garden. Eats bad animals." The other students started to whisper, not loud, but enough to share their thoughts. "A snake that helps in the garden. 3 meters long. How is that possible?" Professor Kang was thinking. She had seen many strange things. Creatures that lived in impossible places. Animals that did surprising jobs. But this was different. "Tell me more," she said. Olivia looked calm, like she was talking about something as simple as the weather. "My family has always been good with animals," she said. "We understand them differently." The classroom felt charged, like something was about to happen. But nothing had happened yet. Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something interesting was growing. A human, a snake, and a story that was getting stranger by the minute. The lunch break would end soon, but the questions were just beginning. The afternoon class started slowly, but everyone was watching Olivia. Something had changed. The other students couldn't stop thinking about her snake. Jin, the telepath, kept trying to read Olivia's emotions, but it was like looking at a blank screen. Nothing came through. Most people's minds were full of color and noise. Olivia's mind was different. Professor Kang decided to ask more questions. "Tell us about your family's snake," she said. It wasn't a request. It was a class assignment. Olivia looked up. Her face was calm. "What do you want to know?" she asked. The classroom held its breath. "It's a Brazilian anaconda hybrid," Olivia said. "My dad helped create it. Not exactly like normal snakes, more like a family member." J1's silver skin turned a deep green, a color that showed total surprise. On most planets, animals were just animals. They had simple jobs, simple lives. But this was different. "Your father made the snake?" Sunho asked. He was writing everything down in his digital log. Olivia nodded. "We needed help in the garden. Regular animals and machines weren't working, so my dad worked with some genetic scientists. They made something special." The other students exchanged looks. Genetic modification wasn't new. Many planets did it, but this sounded different. "How special?" Professor Kang asked. "It can understand complex commands," Olivia said. "It helps protect our garden. It knows the difference between good plants and bad animals. It can solve problems. Most planets would use robots for this job, or special machines. Not a living creature, certainly not a snake." Sunho's digital log was filling up. "Genetic hybrid snake. Intelligent. Solves garden problems." The classroom felt charged, like something big was about to happen. But nothing had happened yet. J1 couldn't stop asking questions. "What does it eat?" he asked. "Mostly invasive rodents," Olivia said. "Sometimes it needs special vitamin supplements, but it helps keep our garden clean." Jin moved closer. As a telepath, she was used to understanding people. But Olivia was a puzzle. Most humans showed clear emotions: excitement, pride, nervousness. But Olivia showed nothing. "How long have you had this snake?" Professor Kang asked. 10 years, Olivia said simply. "It's been with our family since it was very small." The other students started to whisper, not loud, but enough to share their thoughts. "A snake that helps in the garden. 10 years. How is that possible?" Professor Kang was thinking. She had seen many strange things. creatures that lived in impossible places, animals that did surprising jobs. But this was different. Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something interesting was growing. Olivia kept talking, like she was discussing something as simple as the weather. But the other students knew something was different. A human, a snake, and a story that was getting stranger by the minute. The class continued, but everyone was thinking about the same thing. The snake, Olivia's family snake, a creature that was more than just an animal, a creature that was part of a family. Something was coming. Nobody knew what, but something was definitely coming. The next part of the class was supposed to be about alien ecosystems, but nobody was listening. Everyone was thinking about Olivia's snake. J1 raised his hand. "Can you tell us more about what the snake eats?" he asked. Olivia looked calm, like she was talking about something as simple as breakfast. "It mainly eats invasive rodent species," she said. "We had big problems with animals that wanted to eat our garden plants. Regular traps and robots didn't work well. The snake does a better job." The classroom went quiet. Most alien students came from worlds with strict animal control. Dangerous creatures were kept far away. Controlled. Managed by machines. But Olivia talked about her snake like it was a family helper. Professor Kang listened carefully. She had studied animal behaviors from hundreds of planets. But this was different. "How does it know which animals to eat?" she asked. Olivia shrugged. "It's been trained. It understands the difference between good and bad animals in the garden. My dad spent years teaching it." Sun Ho made more notes in his digital log. Snake, intelligent hunting, understands garden ecosystem. Some students looked nervous. Their translation devices worked perfectly, but the words seemed strange. A snake that could think, that could understand complex commands. Hai Jin, the telepath, tried to read Olivia's emotions again, but it was like looking at a blank wall. Nothing came through. Most people's minds were full of color and noise. Olivia's mind was different. "Does it need special food?" J1 asked. His silver skin was changing colors. Blue for curiosity, green for excitement. "Sometimes it needs special vitamin supplements," Olivia said, "but mostly it hunts on its own. It's very good at finding the right food. Most planets would use advanced technology for pest control. Robots, specialized machines, not a living creature, certainly not a snake." The other students started to whisper, not loud, but enough to share their thoughts. "A snake that hunts specific animals. How is that possible? It sounds like a machine, not an animal." Professor Kang walked closer. She had seen many strange things in her years of teaching. Creatures that lived in impossible places, animals that did surprising jobs. But this was something new. "Tell me about its diet in more detail," she said. Olivia looked at her. "It mainly eats rats and mice that try to destroy our garden. Sometimes small invasive lizards. It helps keep the ecosystem balanced." The word ecosystem caught everyone's attention. Most students would say keeps the garden clean. But Olivia talked about balance, like the snake was an important part of something bigger. J1's skin turned a deep green, a color that showed total surprise and interest. "How often does it eat?" he asked. "Not very often," Olivia said. "It's efficient. One big meal can last it a long time." The classroom felt charged, like something big was about to happen. But nothing had happened yet. Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something interesting was growing. A human, a snake, and a story that was getting stranger by the minute. Sun Ho looked at his notes. Intelligent snake, specific diet, garden protection. He added a question mark. It didn't make sense. But something was coming. Nobody knew what. But something was definitely coming. The final class of the day was about interspecies relationships. Professor Kang liked to explore how different species lived together. She had no idea how interesting this class would become. Every species has its own way of living, she usually told her students. Some use technology, some use cooperation, some use special relationships. Today, those words would mean something totally different. Olivia sat quietly. She didn't know she was about to change everything everyone thought they knew about relationships between living things. Professor Kang looked at her. "Olivia," she said, "can you tell us more about how your family works with animals?" The classroom went totally silent. Everyone was listening. "It's normal for us," Olivia said simply. "We understand animals differently." J1's silver skin turned a deep blue, a color that showed deep thinking. Most alien species saw animals as simple things, tools, machines, helpers, but humans seemed to see something more. "Your snake is not just a tool?" Professor Kang asked. Olivia shook her head. "It's part of our family," she said. "We take care of it. It takes care of us. Simple as that." Sung-ho wrote in his digital log, "Snake, family member, not a tool." The other students looked confused. On most planets, animals had simple jobs: protect, clean, help. But this was different. This snake was more than a helper. It was a family member. Jin, the telepath, tried again to read Olivia's emotions, but it was like looking at a blank wall. Nothing came through. Most people's minds were full of color and noise. Olivia's mind was different. "How do you train such an animal?" Professor Kang asked. "We don't train," Olivia said. "We work together. We communicate. It's not about giving orders. It's about understanding." The words hung in the air. Most species used complex technology to control animals. Machines, special devices, control systems. Humans seemed to use something else, something more basic, something more powerful. J1 raised his hand. "But it's a dangerous animal," he said. "How can it be safe?" Olivia looked at him. "Danger is about understanding," she said. "Most people see a snake and get scared. We see a partner, a friend." The classroom felt strange, like something big was happening. But nothing had moved. Professor Kang was thinking. She had studied animal behaviors from hundreds of planets. But this was different. This was not about control. This was about connection. "Your family sees animals differently," she said. Olivia nodded. "We don't see lines between us and other living things," she said. "We see connections." The other students started to whisper. Not loud, but enough to share their thoughts. "A snake as a family member. How is that possible? Humans are strange." Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something important was happening. A human, a snake, and a way of thinking that was totally new. Sung-ho looked at his notes. Humans, different way of seeing life. Snake as family. He underlined it 3 times. Something was coming. Nobody knew what, but something was definitely coming. The class was about to change everything they thought they knew about relationships between living things. The classroom felt electric. Everyone was waiting. Olivia seemed calm, like nothing special was happening. "Would you like to see a picture?" she asked. Professor Kang nodded. "Yes," she said. Olivia pulled out a small device. Most students had communication devices, but something felt different about this one. She touched the screen. A holographic image appeared in the middle of the classroom. The snake was beautiful and terrifying. It was exactly 3 meters long. Its skin was not just one color. It changed, like J1's silver skin. But this was different. This was natural. The snake could blend with its surroundings. One moment it looked like garden soil. The next moment like green leaves. Sung-ho stopped breathing. The snake was not just lying down. It was doing something. In the holographic image, part of the snake was moving garden rocks. Another part was catching a small animal. Another part was watching something else. How is it doing all those things at once? J1 whispered. The snake looked intelligent. More than intelligent. It looked like it was thinking. Its eyes were different. Not like normal animal eyes. These eyes looked like they understood things. Like they were solving problems. Professor Kang leaned closer. She had studied animals from hundreds of planets. But this was different. The snake moved with purpose. It wasn't random. Every movement meant something. In one part of the image, the snake was moving a broken plant pot. In another part, it was catching a small rat. In another part, it was watching something else entirely. Multiple brain centers, Olivia said simply, like this was normal. Most students came from worlds where animals had simple jobs. Protect, clean, help. But this was something else. Jin, the telepath, tried again to read something. Anything. But Olivia's mind was still a blank wall. The holographic snake continued to move, changing colors, solving problems, watching everything. Is it alive? Someone asked. Very much alive, Olivia said. The snake looked like a guardian, not just an animal. Something more. Its scales moved like they had their own intelligence. One moment green, the next brown, the next a mix of colors that matched the garden perfectly. How does it change colors? J1 asked. Genetic modification, Olivia said. My dad worked with some scientists. Made something special. Special was not the right word. This was something else entirely. The other students were frozen. Some looked scared. Some looked excited. Some looked confused. Professor Kang had seen many things. Creatures from 100 worlds. Animals that did surprising jobs. But this was different. The snake in the image continued to move. Watching. Working. Thinking. Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something amazing was happening. A human. A snake. And a way of living that was totally new. Sunho's digital log was full of notes. Snake. Intelligent. Changes colors. Multiple brain centers. Solves problems. Something was coming. Nobody knew what. But something was definitely coming. The class was about to learn something totally new about life. About intelligence. About connection. The bell rang, but nobody moved. They were all still looking at the holographic image of the snake. The image that changed everything they thought they knew about animals. About intelligence. About life. Professor Kang was the first to speak. That is not just an animal, she said. Olivia looked calm, like she was talking about something totally normal. It's part of our family, she said simply. J1's silver skin was changing colors faster than ever. Blue for thinking, green for excitement, gray for worry. His body showed everything his face did not show. How is this possible? He asked. Sunho was still writing in his digital log. His fingers moved quickly. Snake. Intelligent. Changes colors. Solves problems. Works with humans. The other students started to talk. Not loud, but enough to share their thoughts. A snake that thinks. A snake that works. How is this possible? Jin, the telepath, tried one more time to read Olivia's emotions, but it was like looking at a blank wall. Nothing came through. Most people's minds were full of color and noise. Olivia's mind was different. Professor Kang walked closer. Your family does something special, she said. Olivia nodded. We see life differently, she said. Outside, the alien world continued. Strange machines worked in the distance. Floating gardens moved in the purple-silver sky. But inside this classroom, something important had happened. Most alien species saw animals as simple things. Tools. Machines. Helpers. Humans seemed to see something more. Something deeper. The snake is not a pet, Olivia said. It's a partner. The words hung in the air. Jae-won looked at the holographic image again. The snake was still moving, still watching, still solving problems. "How did your family learn to do this?" he asked. "We listen," Olivia said. "Most people give orders. We communicate." The classroom felt different, like something big had changed. But nothing had moved. Professor Kang was thinking. She had studied animal behaviors from hundreds of planets. But this was different. This was not about control. This was about connection. The other students looked at each other. Humans were known for doing unexpected things, for spreading across many worlds, for making friends with strange creatures. But this was something new. Sung-ho closed his digital log. Some things could not be written down. Some things had to be understood. "Humans are strange," one student whispered. "Humans are amazing," another said. The bell rang again. Class was over, but nothing would be the same. A human, a snake, a way of living that was totally new. Olivia packed her things, like nothing special had happened, like she had not just changed everything they thought they knew about life. Outside, the alien world continued, but inside, something important had happened. Something was coming. Nobody knew exactly what, but something was definitely coming. The class had learned something totally new about life, about intelligence, about connection, and it all started with a simple story about a family snake.